Warning! In this video, I'm going to tell you how to irritate each of the 16 personalities. So, if you use any of the things I tell you in this video and you get your butt kicked, I can't be held responsible. That's on you. So when we talk about the 16 personalities, a lot of times we focus on the strengths and the weaknesses of each type. However, the strengths and the whacknesses aren't going to be the first things you notice about a person. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to follow your friend around with a clipboard and be like, it seems that you prefer factual data to abstract concepts. Interesting. I mean, maybe you do that. I don't know. I'm not judging. What will probably jump out to you more quickly about the 16 personalities is that they all have their own unique frustrations or frustrations if you're dumb. For every type, there's an ick factor, a pet peeve, something that undeniably irritates them. It gets under their skin, something that makes them go, ew. Understanding what can make a Myers-Briggs type's skin crawl truly defines the core experience of that type. So we're going to break this down by temperament. If you want to learn about what the 4 temperaments of the 16 personalities are, click or tap this video in the card above my head. Starting off with the friskiest of ponies, I'm going to talk about what irritates the EPs, or the Extroverted Perceivers, the mostest. EPs are lovers of freedom, free spirits, they're novelty seekers. Their worst nightmare is feeling limited or controlled. So if you want to ruin their day, you want to put them in an environment that denies them their greatest desire. And each of the EPs has a unique version of, oh crap, get me out of here. So both the ENFPs and ENTPs struggle with the sensory environment, which means these types are both highly sensitive to rules, laws, and policies that restrict their freedom. If you want to irritate an ENFP, figure out what their favorite, most loved thing is. It could be an activity like watching a movie or painting, or maybe something like a particular song or a restaurant. Then you snatch the love of their life away from them and replace it with paperwork. The more detailed and bureaucratic, the better. I'm not exactly sure how this would work in real life. So a simple real world example is that if, an ENFP is trying to watch Netflix and they get the little ISTJ error message that says, we don't recognize your advice, you're gonna need to verify by going on your phone and plugging in some kind of code, they will die a little inside. The ENTP is very similar. If you want to frustrate them, you got to find what ideas and topics they find interesting or fascinating. So many ENTPs, if we're going to generalize here, are obsessed with stuff like economics, computer science, technology, the nerd stuff, These guys love the challenging puzzle of large-scale problems. To properly irritate these guys, you want to hinder their access to puzzles through years of red tape and mandatory meetings with HR to talk about their taste in memes. Even just having to read through the terms and conditions before installing new software.
We'll get to them.
ESFPs and ESTPs, like their intuitive cousins, also resist and reject being limited and controlled. Their sensitivity, however, is towards the abstract realm. So any irritation is going to come from not recognizing the subtle influences of intuition in their daily lives. So if you want to infuriate an ESFP, uncover their most beloved experience, like a trip to the beach with their friends, or that one time they hiked up a mountain and watched the sunset and it was so beautiful, it was the best experience ever, man. And then tell them that they only did that thing, they only hiked up that mountain because they watched an advertisement about hiking boots one time when they were 12 and it subtly influenced them. I just get such joy out of irritating people, I guess. I don't know. To alienate an ESTP, dig for the topics that intrigue them and awaken their curiosity. And if you do this right, they'll begin to tell you the theories and ideas that they'd never tell anyone. Those ideas that they hold close to their heart. But then you drop a truth bomb on them. Someone else already had that idea 10 years ago and the ESTP didn't even notice that they had just copied and pasted it. Okay, now that we've ruined 4 types days, let's move on to the born-to-be managers, the EJs. The EJs are community-minded, so they're aware of and in touch with what works and matters to everyone. The worst nightmare for this group is failing to make a difference in others' lives. Both ESTJs and ENTJs struggle with their personal emotions, which means these types both are highly sensitive to overthinking and overreacting to their own feelings. To irritate an ESTJ, you want to identify their particular zone of fascination and interest, which for this type tends to be topics like law or accounting, if we're just generalizing here. Usually it should relate to structures that affect everyone and require a great deal of problem solving. They really love the problem solving. Then you'd sit the ESTJ down and you ask them, what is so important about this thing? Remember, how important something is the realm of feeling. So don't let the ESTJ obfuscate the discussion with work they could do. Keep the conversation focused on their personal investment. They will not like that. They will be sweating bullets. The ENTJ is very similar, but their interests usually tilt towards stuff like business and marketing. When you talk to them, try to see what's under the surface. The ENTJ has a long-term dream, something they really want, but they believe that they can't have that without working hard first for others. So to properly irritate these guys, you should point out how even with all this long-term foresight, they still might not get what they want. Bonus points if you tell them, why not go for what you want right now? ESFJs and ENFJs, like their thinking cousins, also struggle with their personal beliefs. This is due to their limited investment into the reasons behind their own beliefs, creating a shaky foundation. If you want to infuriate an ESFJ, ask them about their plans. You'll notice they start talking about what matters to everyone else and how what they're planning also matters to everyone else. Oh man, Billy told me these plans were really great and they were awesome, and Sally said, oh, that's a really cool thing that matters to me. So you push the envelope and say, but does that future, that thing you're planning, really work for you? Do you have any reasons, your own personal reasons for why this is a good path for you? And if you get burnt cookies next Christmas from them, don't say I didn't warn you. For the ENFJs, get them talking about their friend group. They'll start sharing everything about everyone, painting a picture about who each friend is and why they are that way. ENFJs are so busy building others up that they don't realize how much it eats away at their own personal development. So if you want to alienate them, which is what we're trying to do in this video, ask them if they even agree with what their friends think and watch them start charging their friends for the free therapy they've been giving. In part dos, we'll talk about how to irritate the rest of the personality types. Stay tuned. All right, let's make way for the perennially nervous. The IJs. Aw man, the IJ types, they're security minded. They're aware of and in touch with what makes them feel comfortable and at ease. The worst nightmare for this group is having that sense of tranquility disrupted. Both INFJs and INTJs struggle with the sensory environment, which means that these types both are highly sensitive to tiny flutters of chaos in their physical environment. To irritate an INFJ, you want to identify their particular zone of fascination and interest, such as, I don't know, what do INFJs do? Writing literary analysis on a book they've read, or just something like people watching. Generally, it should relate to understanding and puzzling out the human condition. Then what you gotta do is somehow cause a power outage to kill the Wi-Fi. The resulting chaos will so thoroughly exhaust an INFJ that they will be in a coma for a week. RIP. Like I said, warning, big disclaimer, I'm not responsible for, for any comas you put people into if you use the advice I dispense in this video. The INTJ is very similar. If you want to frustrate them, find what secret thing they love but they won't admit. Usually this is something that sparks their intuition, that lets them play in the fantasy world of their minds, such as complex allegories or symbolism in films or novels. So to properly irritate these guys, point out all the different ways their fantasy world doesn't work or doesn't apply to their given situation, and wait for the existential crisis to begin. I've found a lot of INTJs are into playing Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know. This is just my personal anecdotal observation. If you can just point out things about D&D that don't make sense, that should do it. ISFJs and ISTJs, like their intuitive cousins, also try to manage and limit chaos in their lives. Their frustrations are more connected to trying to manage infinite possibilities rather than literal disruptions in the real world. If you want to infuriate an ISFJ, ask them about the most important and enjoyable ritual that they have. The best ones are the rituals and routines that they maintain to make other people comfortable and content. All you have to do is ask them why over and over again while rejecting the answers that involve other people. Why do you volunteer at that soup kitchen, ISFJ? Huh? Why? Why? You don't have a good answer for me, huh? Give me one good reason. To alienate an ISTJ, dig for the rituals and routines that keep their life running efficiently and effectively. You'll know you're on the right track if they start proudly trying to teach you how to implement this thing yourself. Like, oh, here's how I fold my shirts. So this is when you deliver the punchline. Ask them, why does this matter? And watch the frustration explode. Hey, ISTJ, I'm getting along fine folding my shirts this other way. You know, what you're showing me doesn't seem to be very valuable at all. Last but not least, we have the coolest of the cats, if you will, the IPs. The IP types are very aware of and in touch with what makes them different and unique. The worst nightmare for this group is losing themselves to the whims and desires of others. So both ISFPs and INFPs are deeply connected to their own sense of meaning and value. They struggle if they ever have to bend those deep-seated values in order to work with others. So to irritate an ISFP, you have to get to know their real dreams. Not just like what music recommendations they have, but the real motivations behind their decision. You should hear them discuss how important it is to them to accomplish their dreams. So then just ask them to explain why are your dreams gonna work out just the way you want it to, because you really haven't planned any of this out. The steam will erupt from their ears. For the INFP, you'll want to get to know the fantastical dreams that bring them joy. Yes, INFPs do feel joy. They aren't just depression memes. Their dreams are often connected to specific experiences that spark their imagination to new heights. So if you want to annoy an INFP, continually point out how impractical every aspect of their dreams are. But only do that if you're ready to be featured in their upcoming poetry slam. ISTPs and INTPs, on the other hand, are centered on their own concept of truth. They resist connecting with others emotionally to protect those personal truths. If you want to infuriate an ISTP, ask them about what gets their mind going. So with enough careful prodding, you should be able to get them to open up about how they built their own computer, or they love working on their motorcycle, or about the latest problem they need to solve at work. Then you point out how every other ISTP does the same exact thing. So why are you so unoriginal? To alienate an INTP, ask them about one of their personal projects and why it's so important to them. Then, in the middle of their spiel about how to make a perpetual motion machine, or why they prefer, Python over Java, or whatever nerds talk about, ask them, but does anyone actually want that? When they insist that it's obviously interesting, this thing that they're working on, you can counter back by saying, just because it's interesting to you does not mean that other people will find any value in it. And boom goes the dynamite. How does each personality type use intuition differently? To hear more about that, watch this video here. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, stay cool and attractive.